of making sure that things were going to be transported, from continent to continent.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so good for you.
Yeah.
Good work.
And actually, they do everything in between after the basic research, which includes development, manufacturing, and they work with regulatory affairs, getting the products approved by the FDA for clinical use. So, in addition to that, I also
The sky, looking at you, I can read your mind. I am the maker of rules, dealing with fools. I can cheat you blind.
Hello and welcome to the Pinky and Renee Show. Things happen. You got to go and roll with the punches, and that's exactly what we had to do today. It's 6:23, and it's been nothing but havoc today. Is there a full moon out there? Lord have mercy. But I just keep it moving, y'all, and I want you and your lives to keep it moving because it's all good as long as we're on the upper side of the ground and the dirt, 6 feet above instead of 6 feet under. So listen, welcome. I'm Renee Starlin Allen, and we are so glad that you tuned in today. And I just want to thank you for your support. We're going to, my co-host, Pinky Lee Taylor is out of town. Wish her safe travels, and we're going to keep the show going. So I wanted to talk about a few events before we bring up our one and only Matthew Fogg. Okay, and one of the events that I have is Stomp the Runway for Autism. This week we have a lot of things going on, and Eric, if you want to show that. And that's going to be on Saturday in Columbia, Maryland. Stomp the Runway for Autism. You got that, Eric? Another one we have here is the DC Dancing Stars. That will be on Saturday as well. And there you go. And Tyson's Corner at the Ritz-Carlton from 6 to midnight. Executive Director Susanna Moss and local celebrities will be shaking a leg, y'all. All right. Do you have the Stomp the Runway for Autism as well? Well, while you're looking for that, we also have some up-and-coming events. And one is VIP Events Concierge. It's going to be at the Robert Andrews. There we go, the Robert Andrews Spa, the largest private spa. And it's a beautiful place, and we're going to have a wonderful time. And come on out. I think it's maybe $25. $50, I believe, and VIP is $75, but it's well worth it. You'll have different services and food and drinks and all kinds of stuff, so come on out. Another one is our very own Cheryl Wood, and that is Playtime is over. The women's conference. He put up that I am a moderator for one of her days, but I do have another one, Eric, and it has Cheryl on it. And I want y'all to support this woman. She's phenomenal. She's one of Listen Vision's own. I love her dearly, and I am so honored to be a moderator in this wonderful Women's Empowerment Conference. The only other thing we're looking for is the Stomp the Runway for Autism, but if you can't find it, that's okay. Again, that will be at the City of Hope International Center in Columbia, Maryland. All right. That's about it for up and around town here in the DMV. So I hope that you will take advantage of at least one of those wonderful events. Speaking of Playtime is over, we have a wonderful, extraordinary guest today. I mean, he wears so many hats, my goodness, and wears them well. I want to put up his picture. It's none other than Mr. Matthew Fogg. And let me just read a few things about this extraordinary gentleman. First of all, I know him personally, and he is a man of character and grace, and he is a Washingtonian, lifelong resident. His mother and father are in good health in the 80s, and one is 96. He has 8 siblings, including 2 sets of twins. Matthew attended Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia, and was involved in many activities to include the campus sports, television, newspaper, president of the campus organization, and political spokesman. Matthew worked as an electrician in his summer months during his college years, remained in that field until his employment with the United States Marshal Service on April 24th, 1978. His career and duty station as a deputy U.S. Marshal began in the District of Columbia, remains in the Washington, D.C. area today. His outstanding accomplishments, my goodness, there is so much going on here on this paper, but I have to give him homage and read some of this. Superior performance and accolades are numerous, to say the least, as well as documented by the U.S. Marshal Service and the U.S. Justice Department. His record reflects outstanding recognition. Look, let me just say a few. 1979, Cuban Refuge Boat Flotilla in Key West. Operation Flagship in Washington, D.C., Atlanta Penitentiary Riot, Funware Eunice Trial, Ruby Ridge, Los Angeles Riots. My goodness, the list goes on, y'all. Look, numerous awards and recommendations from the U.S. Department of Justice and national and local police associations. This guy rocks, and it's none other than Matthew Fogg. Come on down, Matthew.
Yay.
My man, give me some. Mwah. I'm so glad you could be here today in the middle of all this chaos and mayhem. You know, movers and shakers and successful people just keep things moving and stay above the radar of drama, don't we?
That's right.
Glory
That's
to
right.
God.
No
Listen, since we've wasted about 22 minutes trying to get all this stuff together,
Right.
let me say, I just love you.
Thank you.
I do. And
Same here.
I want to just, without any further ado, tell our viewers, see that camera right there? Tell our viewers a little bit about Matthew Fogg, the personal side. We're going to get through, we're going to rock and
Right.
roll with all your accolades. But tell them about your personal side.
Well, I'm like I said, I'm from a lifelong resident here in Washington, D.C. I believe I've always had a mantra in me to look out for the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. Like I said, from a large family. By the way, that bio you was reading is a few years old because both parents have passed away.
Oh, my, I'm
my
so
father
sorry.
made it to 100,
Yeah.
which is awesome, and mom was 85. So,
Wow,
but
okay.
to God be the glory. They both
Yes.
lived graceful, glorious lives. Myself, like I said, I graduated from Marshall. I came back to the area, worked as a U.S. Marshal. Two different things, Marshall University and U.S. Marshal, two different, but yet at the same time.
Right.
I graduated. I also retired from the U.S. Marshals. I'm mainly known for taking on the U.S. Department of Justice, for winning a landmark discrimination decision against the Department of Justice for race discrimination in-house. And as you're going to learn from this show later on, as I talk about those things, how they tie into how we do our goods and services on the street as law enforcement. Myself, like I said, I'm currently I'm single, and I have one son, and pretty much trying to just do the right thing. I'm running for office here at Senate, write-in candidate for the Maryland Senate District 25. So these are the things that I'm trying to do and trying to make things happen, as well as working here with, I'll tell you, with Renee.
Well, I heard you say single. You're definitely not ready to single mingle because you're running for Senate and doing so many things. You might as well not even told the people that you were single. You're
Right,
married to your career.
That's exactly right. Yes, thanks so much.
Yeah, well, tell us about your son.
Right. Okay. Well, Joshua.
We have a
he's-
picture of Joshua, matter of fact. Yeah.
Well, Joshua's a good kid. I mean, he's very energetic. He's his mother is from Jamaica, so pretty much he's a good kid. He goes to Roosevelt High School. He's like I say, he's a great kid. I love him and doing good things.
Eric, we have a picture of his son, Matthew Fogg's son. Yeah, you look like twins. So there he is.
Yes.
Yes. Look at those eyes. Yeah. Well, you look like a doting, proud father, and that's wonderful. What grade is he in?
Okay, he's in 11th grade right now.
Wow. So one
Yeah.
more year, and he'll be flying the coop.
That's right.
Empty
That's
nest
exactly-
syndrome.
That's exactly
My
right.
goodness. Well, listen. Speaking of your son and his mom, when you joined the U.S. Marshal and things started to get a little hot. Well, first let's back it up. What motivated you to become a U.S. Marshal?
Well, I think I always had a liking towards law enforcement. But when I was a young kid, about 17 years old, just turned 18, I got locked up for something that I didn't do. Pretty much I was a witness in a case. And the officers made a mistake when they got downtown. They got the witnesses' names turned around as the suspects.
Wow.
And ended up locking us. And when they realized they made a mistake, they released us. But that was a traumatizing experience.
Right.
And so I think those things, some people say that would have turned me off from law enforcement. For me, but that pushed me in that direction.
Yeah.
When I got to college, I started studying criminal justice administration. And then I went from there and ended up getting my degree and starting a career in law enforcement.
Well, we had several bios. I grabbed one in the midst of everything that was going on.
Right.
We can't tell y'all everything that was going on because we're just keeping it moving. But what I wanted to say was, as a chief deputy U.S.
That's
Marshal
correct.
retired, share with the viewers some of the triumphs that you've had to endure. Some of the things, just like you talked about what
Right.
happened with the police. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, as you said, my career is full of accolades. I mean, I've been involved
Absolutely,
in
I'm so impressed.
various aspects of the job. One of the things I say as a marshal, I did a lot of things that a lot of people in more specific fields wouldn't have done. So having been successful in fugitive operations, tracking down America's Most Wanted, over 300 fugitives from justice, having worked in all types of security details, United Nations, protecting dignitaries coming in the country, having been in Drug Enforcement Administration, having ran drug and interdiction cases across the country, just a lot of various things. I've been involved in the, like I said, the L.A. and Los Angeles riots with Rodney King. I was involved in that. Took a team of guys out there and backed up LAPD during the riots. Many dangerous assignments, operations from Miami to Seattle, tracking down notorious fugitives and criminals. So between that, also having to take on the U.S. Marshals, the U.S. Department of Justice for race discrimination.
Right,
That
I was going to
probably
get
the
into
most
that, yeah.
daunting
Yes.
thing of it all, because I thought going after the crooks was rough, but that was even harder because because now I'm dealing with my own brothers, as they say, in blue, and that was the toughest thing for me to do. But we prevailed.
Yeah, I can imagine. When you talk about the Rodney King, tell us your your take on that, since you were a part of it. You know, most of us were just witnessing it, you know, at least I was from the television. Please
Right.
share with us really what was going on at that time.
Well, the Rodney King riot centered around, as most people know, there was a videotaping of Rodney King being beat by about 12, 13 police officers, and just standing around watching this guy being beat. Now, being in law enforcement myself and stuff, I've had a chance to work with law enforcement officers all over the country, because being a U.S. Marshal and being a part of many task forces, what a lot of our operations would involve the locals, and we would set up dragnet operations all over the
Okay.
country where we're involving other police departments. So I got a chance to work with other police departments. I got a chance to understand them, LAPD, Miami PD, New York PD. But when you Rodney King, of course, we know that when we saw the officers beat this guy, and then of course they were acquitted, and that inflamed the public, who
Right.
had already probably been incensed. This way the public is today, having issues with police, not trusting police, and then you seeing it right there with your own eyes on video, and then you see the police get off. So that created, as you know, rioting in L.A., and L.A. asked for, at that time, when it first broke out, it just seemed like it was out of control. It was, and they asked for federal assistance. So that's where the U.S. Marshals. We got a team, and at that time I was a member of the SWAT team. So we took a team in there and backed up LAPD.
Well, what is it that you haven't done, sir? I'm sitting here
Done
next
quite
to
a few
He's
things.
such a humble guy. I mean, I'm sitting here just an inch from him. I mean, with all the accolades and all the wonderful things you've done, you're just so humble. I mean, he's almost in a blushing state. He's so humble. I mean, it's just floors me. Wow.
Well, anyway,
Listen, when you were back on track, Renee, back on track.
Yes.
Okay, when you were dealing with other municipalities, you know, police officers, et cetera, from different states, you said
Right.
Miami, et cetera. Tell us a little bit of your experiences with that, because this was around what era? Let the viewers know about what
well,
era
we're talking
this
about
was.
in the 80s,
Yes.
early 90s,
Yeah.
and
we're still having a lot of issues right now in 2014. So you can imagine what Rodney King and a lot of things that you've witnessed. So I would just like to just share a little bit with them.
That's right. And I think what I observed most of all, the commonality of most police departments is we have a lot of discretionary power. And when I would see what is called maybe racial bias and racial tendencies, which we all know now that the war on drugs has been pretty much a race war, because when we look at who we were going after, the weakest links, and the people of color most of the time, and I even raised the issue at times myself, like why are we particularly going into the urban areas? Don't they use drugs in the more affluent areas? And we all knew they did, and the ACLU reports and all of the studies that I've done shows that. But as an law officer on the inside, when you begin to see, say, corruption, or you begin to see misbehaving and things, you know, law enforcement is a command and control environment, and you count on these people to back you up, and you're carrying guns, and you can get in situations where your life can be in danger. So it is a good old boy network, and you really don't want to, if at all possible, do anything to upset that network. So what I observed is a lot of officers would simply go along to get along, because they didn't want to blow the whistle.
Would this be the minority officers in comparison to non-minority, or just in general?
Just in general. I mean, clearly, I mean, if minority officers noticed something had to deal with race, I mean, they could open their mouth if they wanted to, or even
did
if
they
a
open their
non-minority.
mouth in the 80s?
Well, no. I mean, officers did, but if you did, you got crushed. You got wiped out. And when I opened my mouth, matter of fact, the two other guys, white guy, Jewish guy out of New York, good friend Steve Zanowick, and also Bill Scott out of New York. Well, Bill was later killed we under suspicious circumstances. And then what's his name was ultimately ended up Steve Zanowick lost his job, was fired from his job. So there are a lot of things that anybody will tell you when you blow the whistle. Not even if you're not in law enforcement, but when you blow the whistle in law enforcement, that's an altogether different ballgame.
Right. That's a sad situation. Tell us a little bit about your. I know you're a big advocate for fairness and people's rights.
Right.
You know, you went against the Department of Justice. I should tell everybody right there that you have. You know, you're not someone to be played with. But in doing so, tell us about your take on the prison system. what you've done to help that situation and where you see it going.
Well, again, I mean, I'm with an organization called Blacks in Government, bignet.org on the World Wide Web. But I have presented several resolutions for the organization to take a look at these things. One of the things we looked at the prison institutions, we looked at the numbers of African Americans on death row compared to their white counterparts, compared to the population growth. And again, we saw these widespread disparities in that. We saw the widespread disparities in the war on drugs, who was actually being arrested, put in jail, serving time. When you looked at all of that, you begin to see that we had a system that was out of control, or pretty much back to the era of the slave institution. It's just that it wasn't called slavery. So I became very disenchanted about that because of the fact that knowing that I'm a part of this operation to do this. And so I always said, because it's not an equal opportunity enforcement operation, then it needs to change, and we need to stop pushing this whole war on drugs, because it's really not a war on drugs, it became a war on race. And so,
wow, say that one again. My goodness,
it's really not a war on drugs. It became a war on race.
My God.
And ultimately, I joined an organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP.cc, which is white, black, Hispanic officers, 5,000 judges, lawyers, police officers all across the country saying the same thing. The war on drugs is not only is it a failure, it's a policy failure, and we're not putting a dent in what is the drugs that are coming in this country. But by merely having the war on drugs, what we're doing is creating these violent markets out there where people say, if I can create my own little, cartel or gang, then I can go and shoot and kill and put the law in my own hands. So not only is it that, but of course then the biggest piece was the racism of it, the racial profiling, who we were targeting and how we were, and when we looked at the numbers today, we see these extraordinary disparities, and not even close. And for the same drug, the same arrest, the same sentencing, we see that African Americans triple what their white counterparts did.
Well, I saw in the military, being a 21-year veteran, I did see working in the Admiral's office and being privy to the different NAG, I forgot what they call it, but the judiciary punishment and all that. And it was very unfair, very unbalanced,
That's
unyoked. And I actually asked the Admiral one time about that, and he said he didn't have any recollection of it, that it was. So I know it was happening,
That's
in
right.
there. And what I'd like to know before we get into the politics and things like that is, can you share with us one, if not two, but one for sure, maybe scary, life-threatening experience or situation that you experienced while being a U.S. Marshal?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, many, but one was an incident where a guy escaped on us down in Florida, and the guy actually ran on us, and when he got away from us, I ended up going back. We ultimately that same day, just, I don't know, just my gut
There
feeling,
you are.
But we ended up, right, that's the young me.
Yeah.
But we ended up going back to the to the apartment where the fugitive turned out to be.
Okay.
And we got into a big fight in the apartment. There was a couple other guys in there, and just me and my partner. And I'm fighting this guy, and as I'm fighting, I'm so tired till my arms felt like they were rubber.
Wow.
I mean, I felt like Gumby in there trying to fight this guy, and at some point, we fell to the floor, and the guy jumps up and runs out. My partner ends up shooting him, and in the hallway accidentally. But just that whole scene, and we didn't kill him, thank God. We didn't kill a man. Matter of fact, it wasn't even no real serious wounds. But that, I would say, that probably the ground zero being when the buildings fell, when I was in New York City at the time, that 9/11.
You were actually there,
I was
right?
actually there,
Yeah.
yes. And I was up the street when the buildings dropped. And going down and seeing that destruction and the massiveness of it, and the people and all of just the craziness that was involved in that I will never forget that. That will always stay in my mind. And then, of course, there are a few other incidents where, I've had to go after America's Most Wanted. One guy, he tried to pull his gun out. I'm holding the gun in his pocket. I don't want to shoot him. And we
I
found
heard a little bit about that one.
Right.
Yeah. Where you were hoping that he didn't recognize you or something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that would have been scary for anybody. My
That's right.
goodness.
And so, and we ultimately ended up arresting him, and he didn't get a shot off. But bottom line was, and I could have shot him, I could have killed him, but I didn't. And I've had a couple incidents like that, but it just wasn't in me to take a life if I could help it.
You know, and I'm about life as well, but I do want to get some questions out, and I do want to be very black and white. You know, why do you feel? I mean, I never really understood. Help me, Listen Vision listeners. I never really understood why the good people have to say stop or I'll shoot, and then the bad people just continue to shoot. And what is going on with that?
Well, the good people say, let me explain that again because I'm trying to.
You know how the good people, the good guys, stop or I'll shoot. Meanwhile,
Right.
okay, but
But
they
the
don't
law
stop.
enforcement-
Yeah,
got you, okay.
see, but they don't stop and give you a warning. Obviously,
Right.
I just never understood that concept when you know that's the bad guy.
Right.
You know?
I think what it is, like I said, in law enforcement, we have so much discretionary power. And so it's really what I perceive in my mind for the threat to be. Now, if I happen to not like you, I don't like your race, I don't like your gender.
Here we
I don't
go.
like something, you're a handicap, I don't like something about you.
Here we go.
Then what I'm saying is at that point in time, I may make a decision to squeeze around up and shoot you. Maybe I might not have had you look like my son or somebody I can relate to. So and I tell people all the time, when we see these widespread disparities, we see these departments that are predominantly white or don't reflect the community they serve. We see these sort of incidents where people are beating someone unnecessarily.
My goodness.
And we're seeing all of this stuff now because of the advent of videos and
Right.
cameras in your phone and everything else. But this stuff has been going on all along. I mean, if it's your word against the police officer, usually the police officer wins.
Well, now you hit on two very great points. One is, yes, we have video. It doesn't seem to work as much as it should work when it's just black and white in your face.
Right.
With so many across I mean, it doesn't take. It could take a child to see that across this nation, the trigger and the discretionary power is being abused when it comes to our young men.
That's right.
And it's disheartening. It's sad. It's just downright, to me, criminal, or at least borderline criminal.
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about abusing the law, and we as law enforcement officers sworn an oath to uphold the law,
Absolutely,
to
yes.
serve and protect this nation, and then we turn around and are using that same law to abuse or take advantage of people, that's even worse than the criminal, because I have authority to shoot you or to hurt you or do something to you. And most likely that system is going to back me up if I can couch it in
Right.
such a way
Right.
that I feel justified
I
in
thought
doing
the
it.
reflection of the button was a gun. I thought that it's just
Right.
getting ridiculous.
Anything. I mean, the reality of it is, being a law enforcement officer out there and having been out there on the streets and tracking people and doing things. I mean, it is a lot of discretion in it. And if you happen to bring an officer on who's afraid, who feels, say, for example, black men are aggressive and will attack you, and that's the mindset. Then of
But
course
it's not true. It's not true.
No, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
if
I
you
know
happen to
what you're
believe
saying, but
that.
it's not true. I mean,
Right.
even during the president's debate, I mean, he didn't run up to Romney in his face
Right.
and start getting aggressive. Romney
No.
did that to him, but
Exactly.
it wasn't seen as an angry white man.
No.
So
But if you put it on the news and you constantly show the media and they constantly show African Americans, just like this stuff that's going on right now, when we hear all of these things about abuse, spousal abuse, in the National Football League. Now we know spousal abuse has been going on with athletes, whether they're hockey players or football players or basketball players, for a long time, and we know that white and black folks have been involved in
Absolutely.
that. But the way the news has presented this, every time you hear somebody being disciplined, it's somebody of color, somebody being put off the team or something like that. And then every now and then you'll see a white person. But I'm just saying to you that all of these images present this sort of dichotomy or this sort of false sense of a reality. And that's what we wind up dealing with.
What do you? Because we have about 10 minutes or less.
Yeah.
What do you feel? Now there's some people, Vision listeners, there's some people who just actually have a light. And Matthew Fogg is one of these people, in my opinion. They just have a light. He was there during Ground Zero, live, just happened to be there. He's there to help the average Joe in the prisons. He's there when, things happening for the justice system. And, he's just always there. He's just such a great guy. He has the light. Say the light.
The light. Step away from the lights.
Step away from the vehicle.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, what do you, because your opinion means a lot, with this resume here, what do you feel we need to do to put an end to this, or at least to slow it down, decrease it, and eventually abolish it?
We need to turn on the fog lights. But
Turn the fog lights on, y'all.
But I think what we need to do is just like what I'm doing, put more people like me in office.
And we want to talk about that too.
Right.
Yeah.
And to try to, get more people, especially people in the law enforcement or people that are managers in government, whatever, give them what I always say, a witness protection program. The same thing we use. Prosecutors and criminal prosecutors could not enforce laws and prosecute these cases without witnesses and without having our witness protection program like the U.S. Marshals run.
Right.
So the same thing you have to do really if guys, if you see something out there and you're working for an agency or something and you want to report wrongdoing, you got to have protection.
Right.
Or you're not going to open your mouth because you got your family you got to feed. That's what they told me. Said, Fogg, we love you, brother. We care about you, but man, I can't be associated with you now.
And then the stereotype of the witness protection, I'm not saying this, I'm saying the stereotype is that it's not really that safe. Or they find you, they can still kill you. I mean, people are afraid.
Well, I mean, I'm saying not for somebody. If I'm in my line of work or federal government employee like we were, and we see something we want to speak out. When I'm just saying enough protection where if that manager or somebody tries to destroy your career or things start to have reprisals start to occur, they can nip it in the bud.
Right.
And when I'm saying there's no protections there. So what happens is I know people because I represent a lot of people that filed EEO complaints, and that's one of my expertise.
Wow.
And I've seen people file a complaint, and as soon as they file a complaint, all of a sudden their ratings just drop to the floor.
Yeah.
And they were super employees up until that point. They filed a complaint, and the next rating they get is like minimally satisfactory.
There's still a lot of that going on.
Right.
I know that for a fact because I was with two of the agencies where I've witnessed that, even in the military. I mean, But let's go on to the political side because we don't have that much time left. Al, you're running for Senate.
Yes.
Listen, y'all.
Right in.
Yes. So what I want you to do is tell the viewers and me, once you're elected, what are the first 3 things that you want to do to put into legislation or to make a difference in the Senate?
Right. Well, I'm running for Senate in District 25, which is Maryland, which covers District Heights, Capitol Heights, Kettering, Largo, Laurel. I mean, not Laurel, but Kettering, Largo, Morningside, Clinton, those areas.
Okay.
And pretty much what I want to see immediately is a change in our schooling systems there because we're talking about what's happening in the schools. Why is Maryland overall has one of the best school
you're going
rates
there,
as a state, but yet we look into the areas that are predominantly African American. We see these failing schools. So I want to look at that. I want to look at the foreclosures. We got foreclosures that are out of this world.
Yes.
Maryland, I think, is the 3rd state in the nation with foreclosures.
Wow.
So we want to stop that bleeding. We want to nip that in the bud. We want to look at our criminal justice system. We got a lot of these guys coming out. Over 1,500 prisoners coming out of these prisons a month.
1,500, you said?
Yes, 1,500.
Wow.
And what's happening is these people are going to need jobs. They got to know where to go. And a lot of these are nonviolent felonies, which I want to work to get those records expunged. So those people out there listening to me, you support me because we're going to get expungement on the record for these types of cases.
Yes.
I believe, again, like I said, those are the 3 main things that I looked at. The other one is the housing for senior citizens. When we look at how our senior citizens are being treated, we want to make sure that these people have adequate housing.
Yes.
and that they got the adequate care that they need. Certainly, the Affordable Care Act, known as Obamacare, has done a lot, I think, for the African American
Yes.
community. But there's a lot more now. We can massage that. There's a lot
For
more
all
we can do.
communities, really. For all
Right.
co-
That's
yeah.
exactly. And we can do a lot more to massage that. But I'm glad it was a right step in the right direction. So.
Well, why did you decide to run? I mean, you've
Be-
been in a few other campaigns.
Right.
But why Senate? Why the senator?
Because the senator, again, I mean, to me, it's a step. It's a tad bit higher, and you've got a little more responsibility. You know, so with that responsibility comes looking out for the people.
Yes.
We've got a senator in there right now that's, I mean, he's had some issues. He's been censored. Ulysses Curry, he's censored. He's pretty much can't do very much now at this point in time, and he's got 27 years he's been in there. So it's time for change. It's time for somebody to get in there now that can do some things different and push this agenda forward. So when him being censored because of some issues that he had, criminal issues, which he won his case. I mean, he had a case.
Okay,
that
well, he won
charged
his
and
case. Let's give him
Yes,
some,
That's
yeah,
right. But the Senate felt like there was also some improprieties and some things there that they wanted to censor him out. So they took away his chairmanship of some major, powerful committees, and they pretty much, like I said, he's sitting in a corner. That's the way I see it. So I believe it's definitely time for change.
It's always time for change. Timing is everything. We're running out of time, but I'm so glad we had you on the show today. I mean, I'm just impressed by so much you've done, so much you've accomplished, and so much that you want to do still. And what I
Right.
want you to do is look into that camera, give a little bit of inspiration to our young people, and then your information to contact you, whether they want to help you with the polls or they want to get in touch with you for a speaking engagement. Because we didn't even go through, I mean, he's the vice president of Federally Employed Women. I mean, he's for men and women. He's about all people, y'all. That's why he's here. And we really want to inform, educate, and empower you with great women, men, and families.
Right.
So let them know how you're feeling about, give them some inspiration.
Well, let me just say this. Only you can prevent forest fires. And I say that in the sense that I always say that you have to take a step and come forward no matter what the situation is. I remember when they told me when I was decided to file my discrimination case against the Justice Department, they said to me, Fogg, the Justice Department is too big, it's got too many resources, you can't win this one. So at that point in time, I went forward anyway, and to God be the glory, I had one of the largest ever victories. My website, if you want to go to my website, is writeinmatthewfogg.com. Write in, meaning like write-in candidate. That's what I am, running for Senate. Writeinmatthewfogg.com. Or you can just Google me. Go up there and Google my name
Matthew Fogg.
on the internet, Matthew Fogg, and everything pops up.
Well, thank you so much. God bless you. Just one last sentence to inspire our young people and all people before we end the show.
Step away from the vehicle. No. But,
God bless y'all. God bless you, Matthew Fogg. Good luck. And thank you for tuning in to the Pinky and Renee Show.
You killing it. You killing it.